Welcome back, or welcome if you're just joining us. This is the France 24 debate. We're talking about Turkey joining the fight against the jihadists. Parliament voting a short while ago, largely in favor of joining the US-led coalition. With us to talk about it from Ankara, Mehmet Özkan of the SETA think tank. We also want to welcome back Christopher Dickey, foreign editor of the Daily Beast, Emre Demir, editor of Zaman's French edition, Zaman France, and Jana Jabour, who's researching Turkey's Middle East diplomacy at the French Political Science Institute, Sciences Po. Before the break, Jana, we were talking about how Christopher Dickey was making the point he thought that this vote was largely symbolic. We were debating whether or not, of course, events taking place just over the border in that Syrian Kurdish town of Kobane might influence things. There's another issue now. Erdogan talking about that buffer zone on the same day that the Turks vowed to do what it takes to defend the tomb of Süleyman Shah, grandfather of the founder of the Ottoman Empire. It's an enclave that's a tiny enclave that's inside of Syria, but that is officially Turkish territory.
Exactly. So it is official Turkish territory since 1921, and you have Turkish troops actually guarding the tomb of Süleyman Shah, so near Aleppo. So it's as you said, it's an enclave that belongs to Turkey. Now, I think that Erdogan has been instrumentalizing a potential threat against the tomb of Süleyman Shah in order to obtain a yes vote in the parliament to allow Turkish troops to intervene in Syria, because
You feel those are the threats not imminent?
The threat is not really imminent, but it has been instrumentalized as a way to obtain a yes vote in the parliament. So I think because in the subconscious of the MPs, but also in the subconscious of the Turkish people, this enclave is quite important, and it really belongs to Turkey. So there is an obligation on the part of the Turkish government to go and defend this enclave.
Mehmet Özkan, do you agree?
No, I think, this enclave, I think it's important. It's symbolically very important. But I don't think Turkey will base its own foreign policy towards ISIL, and in this case based on this. Of course, it has a huge symbolic significance for Turkey's domestic politics, but Turkey sees beyond these things because, Süleyman Shah, enclave is important, but still it's inside the Syria, and if you send your military to just protect that, you are actually inside the Syria. You are actually becoming part of the war.
But what happens? What happens if it is overrun?
I don't know what could happen. Probably Turkey will be using airspace to protect it, but I don't know if there will be sending some military. It will be very difficult because, as I said, it's a very complex issue. I don't think there is any decision right now is very concrete in Ankara. But they are considering all the options. The fact that day by day, actors are the positions are changing. But the fact is that what is important here? I don't think one thing Turkey sees that. West is not really cooperating with Turkey. That's one thing. For example, we should not only see ISIL as a problem in here, but also we should see this foreign fighters issue as member of ISIL. Where will they go after having this fight? They will usually go to Europe. They are the French citizens, German citizens, and they are Spanish citizens. So this is another aspect of the war that should require more cooperation from the West. Unfortunately, it did not happen so far. I know from the statistics that Turkey has been returned more than 7,000 people from the airports suspected going to fight with ISIL, and at the same time more than 300 people they are in jail. So there should be more cooperation. But what I see is that there is an understanding in the West.
Let's pick up on that point, because that's an important point. Christopher Dickey, the West has not been cooperating enough with Turkey when it comes to rooting out foreign jihadists who are transiting through Turkey.
Kind of hard to figure that one out. I think that the West, maybe they could do a better job of informing the Turks about when people are landing at the Turkish airports, when people are getting on buses, or when people are getting. But anybody who's been reporting down at the border, and we've had several people reporting down at the border, they all come back with stories about just the free transit across the border for people who are obviously jihadists or people who obviously want to be the wives of jihadists. It really is an extraordinary scene down there. Our guy, Jamie Detmer, who was down there today, was just watching people going back and forth across the border, as long as they weren't the Kurds. It's this idea that the Americans should be doing more to stop the foreign jihadists, what is actually misleading, because what Erdogan is doing is he's throwing out a lot of chaff. He's throwing out a lot of distractions. The problem with the foreign jihadists, it's not Turkey's problem, it's America's problem, it's Europe's problem. Why don't the French keep those people in France? Why don't the Belgians keep them in Belgium? And, you know, Turkish population loves to hear this kind of argument. Even the Suleiman Shah thing, look, ISIS is not crazy. In fact, that's one of the scariest things about them. They're very smart. They're not going to attack the tomb of Suleiman Shah, even if it were in their power to do so. Why? Because they don't want a Turkish intervention. But by playing up this issue, Erdogan can create a situation where you say, well, the tomb of Suleiman Shah, it's okay. Everything's fine. There's no problem. While you can stand on the Turkish border and see the black flags of ISIS flying, like from here to the Seine River. It is very, very close.
Emre Demir, do you agree, what with 150,000 refugees pouring over the border in the past 10 days?
Well, it's not okay, but we didn't discuss enough about the radical shift of Erdogan. Before the US visit, before the UN summit, Erdogan was very reluctant about a proactive stance about on joining on the coalition.
So has he pivoted?
Yeah, it has changed. After the US visit, he changed his position radically, and that's why it's partly because of the US pressure, the pressure from the US government probably, and also Erdogan tries to reverse the dynamics in the region. It's about this vote, this shift, this radical shift is also. And I think it's mainly about the Kurdish issue in the Turkey. Turkey doesn't see ISIS a big problem with the deep roots in Turkish society, but the Kurdish issue is
even now, even today.
Now, yes, but because the Kurdish issue is much more important, have much more deep connections within the Turkish society. We are talking about 30 million Kurds living in Turkey, and the PKK, or PYD, is gaining ground on the region, on the border, and they are now more legitimate internationally. They are becoming a state. If we are talking about
what's going on in northern Iraq,
yeah, and Turkey, I think, are trying to reverse the dynamics. I'm not even talking about the Assad issue for Turkey. It's a fixation. It's an obsession, really. But what's going on? It's mainly about the competition between the PKK and Turkey. That's my...
All right, the rules on the ground have changed completely over the past weeks. Even it changes, you could say, even over the past days. Jana Jabor, what do you see right now as Turkey's plan?
To save its reputation in the Arab world. Well, simply put, I think that after the Arab Spring, the Arab people tended to see Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Turkey as a sectarian power and as a sectarian leader. And so, you know, the reputation of Turkey was quite tarnished. And now it is one big opportunity for Erdogan to save his reputation and to show the world, look,
hang on,
I'm not
you're
part
saying
of
he
the
had
problem.
a tarnished reputation. It wasn't always the case. We remember the rock star welcome he got when he went to Cairo.
In 2011.
And a lot of people in the Arab world look at Turkey's economic success and say, why can't we be more like them?
Exactly. The reputation started to be tarnished right after 2011, 2012, when Erdogan decided to explicitly side with the Islamists throughout the Arab world, so in Egypt, in Tunisia, etc. And so this was seen by the Arab people as, you know, Turkey emerging as a new sectarian power, conducting a sectarian foreign policy like Iran or like any other regional power. And so that's why today Turkey is in a situation in which it can, maybe, to a certain extent, change this reputation.
All right, a lot of reactions coming in from viewers. One saying the Turkish parliament votes for armed action against ISIS, but Turkey must be warned not to use ISIS situation to attack the Kurds. So a lot of support on social media there for the Kurds. Mehmet Özkan, what is the plan for Turkey at this point? They've signed on to join the coalition. Is it just going to be window dressing?
I think first we should stop blaming others. I mean, we should stop blaming each other. For example, saying that Turkey has been following a sectarian foreign policy, it has not been correct. You all know that, I mean, Turkey has been saying in Iraq that Malik is following a sectarian policy for many years. Turkey has been saying this many times. And I think Turkey has shared with this many European countries as well. So the issue is we should stop blaming each other. And we have a crisis here. It's one of the biggest crises here. I mean, ISIL, that will burn all of us. That will impact all of us, not only Turkey, Europe, West, and everywhere. And I mean, inside the ISIL, there are members of 81 countries. They are fighting there. They will go back to their own country. We need a huge cooperation here. That's why today in the motion in the parliament, there is one part that, I mean, foreign soldiers can come to Turkey. That's something, for the first time that's happening, because as you know, the first March motion in 2003, it has been rejected by the parliament. So there is also this type of opening. So I think we should all stop blaming each other. We should really put our differences, and we should deal with this issue. Otherwise, this issue, we start using this issue against each other, it will burn all of us. I mean, not only us. Although now, I mean, I should be very clear that West is trying to put all things here. I mean, I understand my Western colleagues that they say that the better option is to kill all the ISIL members here and not to go anywhere else by bombing and by different things. That's a perfect idea, but that will not be realized 100%. It's impossible. Some of them will go different countries and everything. If we don't cooperate here, if we don't have a together action plan, I mean, it will burn all of us. I think eventually, the fact that if Turkey does not fight with ISIL directly, it will be harmful for the West much more than Turkey itself. And in terms of the Kurdish question, I don't think Kurdish question will change many things. You know, Turkey has not been against.
So hang on, are you saying that Turkey should be fighting ISIS directly?
No, I don't think. I mean, at this stage, Turkey is not eager to fight with ISIL directly or alone. But if there is an intelligence coalition, probably there will be a fight. Turkey knows that ISIL is a danger for all of us, and it is sort of burning the area. But at the same time, I mean, we should bring the Assad to the table. Otherwise, as I said before, we can eliminate ISIL today, but tomorrow we can have another organization like Khorasan or different type of organization. So we should really try to finish this math here. Otherwise, this will burn all of us. I think, I mean, as I see in international media, there is a huge blaming others game. We should really stop this difference. This is an imminent threat, and we should really consider all these issues. Otherwise, I mean, if Turkey also start to play this thing negatively, that will be very harmful, because Turkey is a transit way, and I think in that sense, I mean, we should be more cooperating rather than blaming each other.
All right, we have one reaction coming through on Twitter. Turkey's main aim is to topple Assad's regime, not ISIS. Don't be fooled, guys. Christopher Dickey, Turkey's got its own ISIS problem now with homegrown jihadists.
Sure, they have homegrown jihadists, and I think Turkey has shown that it deals with terrorists fairly effectively. I mean, I think it's a problem, but I don't think that's a threat that will make Turkey back down. And they may hold that up as a problem, but I don't think that's the deterrent. I think the things that Erdogan is worried about, first of all, look, remember, this is the second biggest army in NATO. They have a lot of troops. They have a lot of boots to put on the ground. We keep asking the question, who puts the boots on the ground? There's only one army in the region that could put the boots on the ground effectively to take care of ISIS. And that is, in fact, Turkey. Now, Turkey, I don't think, wants to do that. I don't think they're going to do that.
So when you hear the president say that bombing campaigns are simply a temporary measure, do you interpret that to mean that Erdogan could be ready at some point to send troops?
I don't interpret it to mean that, but it is a fact that if you are going to put troops on the ground, the only troops in the region that are numerous enough to do the job and well-trained enough to do the job, they are NATO members, NATO-armed troops. The only ones are Turks. You know, you can talk about sending the British there or the Americans there, and they're not Muslims. The Turks are Muslims. You can talk about sending the Saudis there. I don't think that's going to be very effective. The Jordanians have a tiny army, good as it is. There's only one real army in the region. That's the Turks. And ISIS is on their border.
Amri Demir, what's the conversation like right now?
Well, from the
inside of Turkey?
We have to look at the Erdogan's perspective or the Turkish government's perspective. From their perspective, there's no way that we have a 100% correct decision for the Turkish government. The situation here we got for Turkey, for Turkish government, is a result of a series of mistakes made by Turkish government since 3 years, 4 years, and they are trying to make a lesser important mistake here. If Turkish army, if there will be a Turkish boots on the ground, they will the Kurdish problem will explode. That's certain. Kurds don't want to give the rule of the Syrian Kurdistan, or the Syrian Kurdistan region, to the Turkish army. If not, if Turkish army do not participate in the military intervention, then we will have an ISIS problem. And also,
so how does public opinion feel about it?
Well, how does public opinion feel about it? They don't know much about the details. First of all, there's not a free press in Turkey, and it's a domestic issue also. We're talking not only about foreign policy, but Syria is a domestic political issue in Turkey. It depends on the different political opinions. But a war...
Hang on, you say there's no free press in Turkey, but you're a correspondent for a national paper there.
There are not so
oh, don't put him on the spot, Francois.
Well,
for you, it's not a free press at this particular point when it comes to this issue, when it comes to foreign policy issues.
Of course, we don't have enough communication coming from the Turkish government or Erdogan, and we don't see it on the Turkish press. There are some journalists making interviews with Erdogan. They are pro-AKP journalists, and they don't ask the essential questions. So we don't know so much. What about this radical shift, for example, to begin with?
All right, one comment coming through to us on Facebook. Turkey joining the fight is a right thing to do. These monsters must be eradicated. Chris Verdicki was mentioning in part one how this pivot has been hard to do for the Turks because of economic reasons to a certain degree. A few days ago, the Associated Press spoke to Turkish truck drivers who'd gone on a fuel run to the Iraqi town of Kayara when they were overrun by ISIS fighters who held them for 3 weeks before they were released in early July. They said their captors handled them with care.
After a week, we understood that we were problematic guests. They were worried that the then Prime Minister of Iraq, Maliki, would bomb us. They were scared. They used to tell us that the blame would fall on them if we died. But I would think to myself, you kidnapped us to kill us. Why does it matter who does it? Why are you so scared? They were scared of Turkey. They did not want their relations with Turkey to get worse.
Is ISIS today, Chris Verdicki, still afraid of Turkey?
Oh, I think they're afraid of Turkey. I think they're very concerned. They'd have to be afraid of Turkey. Look, you don't look across your border at 650,000 troops and say, oh, we don't need to bother about them. But I think that they feel that they are, to some extent, on the same wavelength as Turkey. I think their analysis is not so different from the analysis here, that they think Turkey's priorities are Assad and the Kurds, and then ISIS. And I'm sure that there are people, maybe the people who handled the hostage negotiations that released the 46 Turks who were being held hostage, who have a dialogue with ISIS, who deal with them. And I'm sure that there's a lot of back and forth in which there are believed to be understandings.
Jana Jabbour?
Well, getting back to your point and to your point, Mr. Demir, about the freedom of the press in Turkey, well, nobody in Turkey, in the press, raised the question to know how Turkey liberated the hostages.
Of course.
So, I mean, we're talking about ISIS and we're talking about Turkey and their relationship right now, and they are in conflict, etc. But I mean, how did the negotiations take place, and how did
well,
they
in fairness, the question was put to Erdogan, and he said there was no money that changed hands.
Oh. Yeah, but then the real question was how many prisoners changed hands and where did they come from? And the whole rumor mill, this is just rumor, was that in fact one of the Muslim Brotherhood groups in Syria that is beholden to Turkey, that's basically controlled by Turkey, had a bunch of ISIS prisoners and it traded those prisoners for the hostages. I don't know. I put that out there as something you hear in Istanbul, but don't see in the press in Istanbul.
Mehmet Özkan, your thoughts on that, the freeing of those 46 Turkish hostages who'd been captured in Mosul?
I think it will be, I mean, one of those secret mysteries in the history. It will stay like that because,
it will stay a mystery.
Of course, I mean, unless the people who negotiate, they explain this, because I don't really explain, because what will happen, the fact that they just said that there is no ransom paid, at the same time, I think also in this case, you know, it taking 49 hostage from inside Iraq and bringing them to Syria, it has been a huge, huge task. I mean, nobody expected that. The fact that just several weeks ago, before that release of hostages, and we have seen James Foley's beheading and the other journalists. So, I mean, it has been an extremely difficult case. But we should really focus on the result. You know, hostage releases take place in many places, and most of the the practical ways always stay secret. I mean, we should be very honest. In everywhere, all over the world, these things happens. And I think the fact is that before that time, Turkey had most hostages has been. I mean, most hostages has as its citizens at the end of ISIL in the word perhaps, because 49 is as a number is much more than compared all the hostages taken all over the world. But at then Turkey came to zero. I think now, I mean, that hostage releasing has really relaxed Turkey's options, because Turkey's option has been extremely limited. You cannot do any action, even loudly, against ISIL. That's why, I mean, if the motion could pass in the parliament, it is thanks to the release of this hostage, then we can talk now all these options. Yeah.
Mehmet Özkan, I want to thank you for joining us today from Ankara. I also want to thank our panel here in the studio, Christopher Dickey, Emir Demir, Jana Jabour, for being with us. You're watching France 24. All right, the debate is over, but the conversation continues on social media. Hello, James Creedon.
Evening, Francois. We're going to start off with one tweet that's got an awful lot of attention this past weekend related to the Islamic State Organisation. This was from a humanitarian worker, a Swiss humanitarian worker by the name of Benjamin, I should have his name here, but it's escaping me, Oscar Bergman, rather. And essentially what he did, Francois, is he tweeted the coordinates of a camp, an Islamic State Organisation bunker, and I suppose with the view to inciting the US authorities, or the US forces, to bomb said camp. In any case, seeing as an aid worker was already targeted by the Islamic State and assassinated just 2 weeks ago, this drew an awful lot of ire from the humanitarian community, people saying we really need to stay out of these sort of questions, inciting the camps of this nature to be targeted. So he indeed later did recognise that this was perhaps not a very good idea, and it has generated quite a lot of comment over the weekend. A tweeter tags a terrorist target, and you can even see there a cartoon, "Bomb here, please," right? So perhaps not the best approach for a humanitarian worker.
But a great alliteration.
Indeed, it led to some nice headlines. And it does appear that the fact that social media can lead to these camps being identified has led to an effort by the Islamic State Organisation to indeed have a media blackout of their own. There were all of these calls for a media blackout related to the Islamic State Organisation, so as not to give them the oxygen of publicity. And now it appears they themselves are aware that by tweeting, it could generate, I suppose, awareness of where they're located. So this hashtag here, it says Hamlat Taktim Alami, which means basically campaign media blackout. So it's funny to see that being mirrored. They are now calling for media blackout on themselves. So, and the other items we're looking at today, Francois, are the continuing protests in Hong Kong under the hashtag Occupy Central. Now, one of the more interesting elements online this afternoon are photos that were captured by people assembling in front of the chief executive's office in Hong Kong of rubber bullets and tear gas and grenades being brought inside the building. And the crowd, according to this tweet, is getting nervous because of an awareness that the riot gear has
I know that after that tweet happened, there was a reconvergence of people towards the square there.
Right, so it does seem that these images being propagated on social media is having an effect, in fact, on how the crowd is behaving. You also have videos such as this on Instagram, and you can see it's extraordinary images. What you see here is the police changing guards, so to speak, and using that as a means of introducing tear gas and materials into the building. And look at all the cameras capturing that as it's happening. So they were trying to do this discreetly. Let's just say that they failed to be discreet. You also have live footage on YouTube showing events in front of the chief executive's office as they happen. This is an interesting website, Francois. It's being shared on social media as well, occupier.hk. Now, what you have there, if you refresh it, is messages coming in from around the world, people tweeting mostly in Chinese, but also sometimes in English, tweeting their support for the protesters. Now, look at this, because what some very bright spark did is he projected those messages up onto the chief executive of the office building itself. So you have the online footprint being projected onto a hologram center. Indeed, exactly. And that message, I believe, there is actually from France, Paris, France. Somebody who is inspired by the protests. There you go.
All right, James Creedon, there'll be more tales to come. Thank you for joining us. Stay with us. There's more to come here on France 24, and we'll have the latest on those protests in Hong Kong, which are going on for a 7th day now through the night. Stay with us.
The Observer's Direct.
In San Francisco, high-tech companies are flourishing and their employees are getting rich quick. But for many long-time residents, rents have skyrocketed and this economic boom has turned into a nightmare. Our team traveled to the land of Google to meet Patricia, a woman facing eviction and who won't give up without a fight.
The Observer's Direct on France 24 and France24.com.